Well, he's the Tampa Bay area man who pulled off arguably the greatest undercover operation in U.S. history, infiltrating the two biggest drug cartels in the world. His first book, the basis for a movie, well, he's done it again. He's gone back undercover for another cartel, and he hides his face for security reasons, but he opens up with us tonight exclusively here on Fox 13 about his work and a rare upcoming public appearance. You pulled off something nobody was able to do. Infiltrated the Medellin cartel. They put a bounty on your head. Write a book about it. There's a movie. And here we are now. You decided you wanted to go back and do this all over again?
I did.
Robert Mazur learned something unexpected during his first deep dive undercover for Pablo Escobar's cartel. They weren't the only ones breaking the law.
The Americas are afire with corruption, and that's part of why I felt it so important to try to get the truth out.
He discovered a significant portion of the financial industry is laundering money for drug cartels to the tune of $2 billion a year.
And I wanted to get more evidence about that to share with the public, and so I was very motivated to go back.
His first book, The Infiltrator, was the basis for the 2016 movie of the same name starring Bryan Cranston. A former IRS agent and expert in laundering money, he convinced Escobar's henchmen that he was mob-connected, earning their business and their trust, laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for them.
I'm not so sure they liked me. They saw me as a money train, and maybe part of it was a like, because we did develop some, I guess, superficial friendships that were there.
And that was key to luring them to the Tampa Bay area, convincing dozens of them to fly in for Robert's wedding at the Innisbrook Resort in Palm Harbor. That was in the late 80s. They arrested them the night before in downtown Tampa, picking them all up in limousines when they thought they were going off to a bachelor party.
They had to convince them that, no, you really have been arrested. There was a lot of disbelief within the group.
Those key arrests shuttered the Medellin cartel. His new book, The Betrayal, tells the new story of infiltrating the Cali cartel in the early 90s and exposing the federal agent who turned on him, telling cartel leaders Robert worked for the DEA.
And the only way for us to be able to get this corrupt officer would be for me to stay under, feed him disinformation, and we would use that as a means of proving his involvement with the cartels, and ultimately that plan worked, and we put him away for 11 years.
So you stayed in knowing that at any time you could have been grabbed, kidnapped, and disappeared forever.
Yeah, and I almost was. I start the book with a scene in Panama where, little did I know, I found out later from witnesses that there was a hit squad outside, and if the meeting had gone 3 minutes longer, they were going to come to get me.
Another revelation, he tells me, the exploding fentanyl crisis, beyond control in his eyes.
This is something for the cartels. It's much easier and cheaper to produce, right?
Yeah, I mean, they can get all they want from the unregulated pharmaceutical companies in China. The triads are happy to work with them.
Which is why he feels reducing demand is our only chance.
We have to recognize that illegal drugs are, those who use them, are people who are sick, and they need help.
And while his work and that of his support team led to many arrests that crippled the two biggest cartels in the world, Mazur now reflects on doing all of this with a family here at home. A family often paralyzed by wonder and worry.
Thankfully, you know, I'm still married to my high school sweetheart, and we got through all of that, but, you know, that was pretty close, nip and tuck there for a while.
And how the lasting effect on his children will be felt forever.
Now, the youngest was 17 when the last undercover operation was over, and a discussion with that child at the Infiltrator premiere in New York was an interesting one. Came over and said, "Dad, I'll forgive you. I forgive you because now I understand." That took almost 3 decades.
Mazur tells me that Cranston, Bryan Cranston, of course, is on board for making another movie out of The Betrayal. Nothing's firmed up just yet, but he's going to be doing something August 27th he's never done before, appear in public. He's doing a rare Q&A book signing at the Tampa Theater, and photos and video will not be allowed, but everybody with a ticket will get a signed book with proceeds going to the nonprofit Gigi's Playhouse. Go to FOX13news.com. You'll find out some more details about the event. But clearly one of the most fascinating people I've ever been able to sit down with and talk about some undercover work like that.
It's unbelievable that there are people like that who risk their lives I mean, and he did on multiple occasions.
And he and his team, and he will be the first to say he did not do it alone. He had close to 200 people helping him. Of course, he was the very front line of it. But to think how many banks, he said, how many public institutions are still involved with corruption, more work to be done.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he gets to sit these out, right? He's retired.
I asked him that.
We'll
Potentially,
see.
perhaps, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.